When the words coming out of your mouth are true and you believe what you're saying, that's authenticity. Hey, thanks for tuning into my show. I'm the co-owner of Suprahuman, and we're all about helping you become your best self. We've helped thousands of people physically transform. If you want to take the mystery of how to achieve your best body, get a meal plan completely customized to your needs for free. Go to superhumandiet.com, that's S-U-P-R-A, humandiet.com, and we'll deliver the plan directly to your inbox. Welcome to I Am Nineveh. By the way, if you are watching on YouTube, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about my hair, which is a little bit scraggly right now. I just got extensions in, and my husband and I are going to Cabo in a few days to celebrate his big 4-0. He's finally going to turn 40. And he's finally going to join me in the 40s because I'm 42. I'm like, come on. I married young, yes. What do you call that? Am I a cougar or something? No, he's just like a few years younger than me. So anyway, I don't want to hear about the hair. It's a little scraggly. Right now, Mama is momming it on a Sunday, and I'm recording this on a Sunday. Okay, I'm a little stinky, but I'm looking as put together as I possibly can. And so until I have a makeup and hair crew and I'm not filming these episodes on my own, which is what I'm doing right now, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the comments. Sometimes you just got to address those people that we call haters right away so we can shut them down and shut them up. So I came here today to bring you the fire as I always do. And so let's get into it, shall we? It has nothing to do with my hair or makeup, but I think I just got you interested. If you're listening to the show on like iTunes or Spotify, now I got you curious about the hair, didn't I? You see what I did there? I am a brilliant marketer, by the way. You were like, I got to see the hair. What's going on with the hair? A little scraggly. You know, once you get extensions, like it makes life easier and then difficult at the same time. But man, when the hair is done, it just looks hot. And when it's summertime, like I love the extensions. And I go back and forth. By the way, for the fall, I'm thinking of a totally different hair color. Okay, let's move on from the hair. Ladies, if you're listening, you feel me. Love hair and makeup stuff. I could do an entire episode about that, by the way. So I've been reading this book, and it's called Personality Isn't Permanent. And it's a fascinating read. I don't recall the author, but if you just Google it, Amazon it, it can arrive at your doorstep right away. And I'm about 40 pages into it, so I haven't finished it, but it is fabulous so far, written by somebody who's got a PhD. So I'm reading this book called Personality Isn't Permanent. Really? Well, yeah, I don't believe that personality is permanent, but there was a time, and there are still people out there that believe you are born with an innate personality. I think that's actually still common, right? And a lot of us hang on to that. And when we hang on to this idea or thought that our personality is permanent or we were born a certain way, then that really holds us back in life. So here I am, I'm reading this book, and I'm really interested, just love personal development, love mindset. I think as humans, we should always be growing and evolving, and that's what I'm committed to. So when I was in college, I was in community college, actually. I was at a point in my life where I had no idea who I was and what I wanted to be. And at the time, and this show is called I Am Nineveh for a reason, because I am Nineveh. Just being me is good enough. And that's what I want to teach you. But at the time, I really hung up my identity on what type of job I had or what my career was. And so I think the most common way that we discover who we are is by pursuing a particular trade or job or a career. And that's a good start, but we shouldn't hang our entire identity on that thing, because what happens when we're no longer the thing is when we go through an identity crisis and things get real shaky And I experienced that actually in 2022. And so I went to work on who I am and saying what I do doesn't define me. It's only an interest that I have. It's a part of me, but it's not all of me. So, and plus, people are always evolving. And for me, every 10 years, I swear I choose a new career or new path, and all of my experience from the past somehow fits into the piece of the puzzle, as I've learned now at the age of 42, finally. So I'm reading this book, and it took me back to community college. And at the time, I was totally lost. I was an esthetician and makeup artist. And that job in particular that I was doing, I was passionate about it because I suffered from like severe acne as a teenager. I actually was on Accutane in my early adulthood. And so that's why I love makeup. I used makeup at the time to cover up, right? And now I use makeup as a form of expression. And so I fell in love with skincare and makeup artistry, and I wanted to serve people in that way. But I hit a ceiling, and I just couldn't see what I could do with that, 5-10 years down the road. And so I needed something new. I needed to figure out what it is that I was going to do, and I needed to change my entire trajectory in terms of my future career. And you got to remember, the esthetician thing was actually a means to an end. I really wanted to get out of the house. I was always very independent, and I wanted to live on my own, and I didn't want to have to live by my mother or my father's rules at the time. And so the way to do that is to have financial independence. But I remember when I was first thinking about what I wanted to do in high school, I was very interested in modeling and fashion design. And I even ended up doing an interview at FIDM, I think it was, in San Francisco. And I got into the school, but it would have required taking out a massive loan. And I was just way too scared to bet on myself in that way, because at the time I viewed debt as bad. Now, the Nineveh today knows that there's bad debt and there's good debt. That would have been good debt because I was betting on my future self. You know what I'm saying? So hindsight's 2020, as they say, but here I am in community college and trying to figure out, okay, who do I want to be? What do I want to pursue? And I was like, the counselor at the school, I'm telling her my dilemma. And she's like, look, there's this test. It's called the Myers Briggs test. And it is going to help you figure out, it's going to point you in the right direction. So I was super excited to take this test. It's a personality test, by the way. And I got the results, and it gave me 4 different options. Option number 1, librarian. Yeah, picture that, me, a librarian, right? I'm like, okay, I'm like imagining myself with hot, glasses, hair in a bun, whatever the image is that you have of a librarian. Mine was that. So librarian was number 1. Number 2 was technical writer. I'm like, writer, definitely. Technical, sounds a little boring. Number 3, public relations specialist. Okay, that's interesting. Number 4 was broadcaster. And I thought, no way. This test has got me pegged wrong. There is no way in all the answers that I provided that I would ever be a broadcaster. God had other plans, okay? But I'm thinking no way to that and yes to PR. And so I ended up doing an internship at a local television station in Oakland, California. And I've shared this story before, maybe on my previous episodes. But in short, I actually went to an open call for an internship. I was there to apply for the PR internship, and I met a man by the name of Kenny Wardell, and I got to give him a shout out on this podcast because he asked me a question. He asked me, have you ever considered becoming a broadcaster? And I was like, no, I haven't. I want to be in PR. He's like, are you sure you want to be in PR? I said, yes, I am sure. And that was the beginning to my career in broadcast news. And so what he did for me was he accepted me as an intern in his department. But a few months into this, he took me into the newsroom and he said, I want to show you and I want to introduce you to the news reporters. And so he showed me the environment, and the energy was really like vibrant and infectious. So there was something about it that was different than the quiet PR department, which was somewhat boring now that I think about it and I look back. And then the next thing that he did was that he encouraged me to actually shadow a television news reporter. This story is all going to make sense and it's going to come full circle. And then what he did for me was he took me into the studios one day and said, I want to take a few pictures of you at the news anchor desk. And because he was in a position of authority and I was a student, I was highly suggestible. Okay. And so I remember the day I got dressed up and he snapped a few photos of me in the studio. And then he showed me those pictures a few weeks later and he said, you belong there. You belong on that desk. And then I remember doing a PR event where all the news anchors were at and they had these cards that they would sign for fans and viewers. And he pointed to that and he said, that could be you someday. And so what he did was he future paced me and he gave me a vision and a picture and he engaged all my 5 senses into this future self-image, by the way. Now, I don't know if he knew that that's what he was doing, but this guy was a mentor and I'm so grateful. But if I dissect what he was doing is that he was given me a vision of my future self. He was helping me write my future self. And then he engaged my 5 senses in my future self. And then I acted in accordance with this future self, almost automatically, by the way, with no self-doubt, with just focus. And then I became it. I went on to become a broadcaster for over 10 years. How crazy is that story? So here's the crazier part about the Myers Briggs test, which told me I should be what? A librarian, technical writer, PR specialist, or a broadcaster. Turns out that neither Catherine Briggs or her daughter Isabel Myers had any training in psychology, psychiatry, or testing. Catherine used her experience as a wife and mother to formulate the test, which was developed in what? The early 1900s. What? What does this mean? What does this information mean? I just read about this today. This is why I ran in here on a Sunday. I'm like, I got to tell everybody that's listening about this. What does that mean? What does that tell us? It means that a big percentage of us are building our lives based on personality tests, what other people tell us about who we should be. Think about that for a moment. So I was influenced by the test, and then I was influenced by this mentor of mine who was in a position of authority about what he believed about me. Maybe it's not something I necessarily believed about myself because I certainly didn't see myself as a broadcaster. At the time, I considered myself quite the introvert, by the way. Another label, a label that turns out not to be true. Nobody is entirely introvert, by the way. We all oscillate between introversion and extroversion, according to this book. So what I'm learning from this book is that personality can be altered at any time, that we're always evolving. But how do we move from our past selves to our future selves? And that's what I want to talk about today. And the story that I shared with you references what we're going to dive a little bit deeper into, okay? Physical fitness is good for mental fitness. That's why we launched our Daily Trainer app. For less than $1 a day, you get a personal trainer in your pocket. For a limited time, go to superhumanapp.com. That's SUPRA humanapp.com and use my code FREE at checkout to try your first week at no charge. Most of us are stuck in the past, are we not? Can we admit that? Guilty over here too. I've been guilty of that, man, especially in 2022. Coming out of it in 2023, most of us are operating and making decisions based on our past. And that's because our past is actually a reference point. So you're like, that's a smart thing to do. If I want to make a decision about today, if I want to make a decision about tomorrow, what do? We need a reference point. We need data. We need information. And most of us dig into the past because that's where our memories are and that's where the data and the information is. And we go into the vault and we go through the files, right? And we say, that's my reference point based on A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, your past. This is the decision that I'm going to make for today and tomorrow. So we are using our past as a reference point. And we are using that to make decisions about the future. And that is a very big problem. Let me tell you why. The problem with doing that, if you operate from past memories, you will continue to create the same results. Literally, and in turn create the same life. You may alter the results just by a little bit, okay? But not by much. You may alter your results just a little bit, just enough to kind of be satisfied or maybe a little content and comfortable with the change. But it's not a radical change. It's not a quantum leap. It's not an aha. Holy crap, that chick changed her life. She turned it around. I cannot believe that girl is the same as that girl. See, most people are judging you from your past. Most people are thinking about you as your former self instead of seeing you as who you are today, which is why you should not give a crap about what people think about you because they are using a reference point about you from your past self to judge who you are today, even though you may be different. So think about that. This is why our friends change and our friends evolve, because if they're not evolving, you got to evolve. But those old friends are just seeing you for who you were, no matter how much you transform or change, by the way. Does it ever feel like, though, that you are living the same year on repeat? That's because you are. So I'm going to give you an analogy with the iPhone right here. Think about this thing that Steve Jobs created, right? Who wanted this to be an extension of ourselves. Mission accomplished, by the way. But I've got the iPhone, right, by Apple. And what is it filled with when you're looking at it? And what does it do nowadays? What does it do? It is filled with past memories. It literally creates videos for you. On this day, Facebook does the same thing. Instagram does the same thing. Social media does the same thing. Social media and this thing wants you to live in the past. It is always bringing up your memories. Yeah, and what happens when we are filled with these memories is we connect immediately to the memory with our five senses, which I talked about when I shared my story earlier about how I fell in to broadcasting. I didn't fall in, right? Connected the five senses, which are what? Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Okay, those are our five senses. And when you engage with the past and you engage your five senses, it creates emotion. And when you have that kind of emotion, what you end up doing is that you essentially hardwire that memory even more into your mind. So you just continue to keep thinking about the past. And there are reminders everywhere about our past. In our iPhone, on Facebook memories. The world encourages us to think about the past, to live in the past. Maybe the world doesn't want us to pursue our future, whatever we want to call the world, the worldly ways. So what you want to do is start seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling your future self. And the only way to get closer to your future self is to act in accordance with your future self. So yeah, what does she look like? What does she sound like? How does she talk? And what is her demeanor? What does she dress like? You know, she got extensions. Does she wear a certain lipstick color? Does she wear a certain designer? You know, love me some Dior. Love Dior and Chanel. That's my future self. I'm telling you. And little by little, I'm just filling that closet with some Dior and some Chanel, piece by piece. I become her. And so what does she talk like? What is her voice like, right? Think about it. You really can get that detailed if you want to. In fact, when I was becoming a broadcaster at the time, I didn't always have this voice, by the way. Everyone's like, you have such the broadcaster voice. I'm like, I know, it's really natural to me now. But there was a time, and I've shared videos before, that I did not sound like this. What did I do? Is I watched a number of news anchors, and I was like, I like that one. I like the way she sounds. I want to sound like that. And what I did is I went to work. I practiced every single day reading news scripts. For a year straight, I was that obsessed. I'm going to sound like that news anchor. And at first, it sounded really weird. In fact, when I got my first job in Yuma, Arizona, the news director at the time is like, yo, like that is impressive, but it sounds a little weird and a little fake. So I want you to actually discover your real voice. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on that. But what I was working on was enunciation, was how to sound authoritative. And by the way, that goes a long way. It goes a long way in this world, the game of life, the game of business. Sounding authoritative as a woman, something you want to work on, right? Communicating, being able to verbally communicate. And sounding authoritative is very powerful when you're trying to go for what you want in life. It gives you an advantage. It gives you an edge. Let me just put it that way. So anyway, what does it taste like, right? So we're talking about the 5 senses here to remind you: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. So what does it taste like to be your future self? You're like, what does it taste like? Yeah. Is she eating caviar? Damn straight she's eating caviar. I just had some caviar about a week ago in Laguna. My future self very much enjoys oysters and caviar. That's what it tastes like to be my future self. Do I eat caviar every day, every week, every month? No, because that shit is expensive. But I am committed to understanding and tasting what that future self tastes like. And she likes caviar. Caviar is delicious. If you haven't tried it, don't knock it. My husband doesn't like caviar. He does not understand why I like caviar, but whatever. He likes fast cars. I like caviar. I'm way more economical. So, yeah, what does it taste like? Is she drinking the finest wine? What does it feel like to be that person? When they wake up in the morning, are they thinking negative thoughts right away? No, they're thinking positively. My future self is not stuck in negative thought patterns when she wakes up. So now when I wake up and if my mind starts, redirect, positive. And so you're constantly acting in accordance. What does the environment look like and feel like and smell like around this new future self? What's the studio? What my podcast studio? I'm like, nope. The future self has a really cool podcast studio, really cool studio, and I am going to invest in that because that's what my future self would do. My future self would deserve what the studio looks like. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just giving you some examples here, okay? Most people never actually define their future selves, and that is the issue. Man, if you only just defined it and wrote it down, you'd be like 50% ahead of everybody else in this world. Most people are stuck in neutral, by the way. So you can begin to take the mystery, the unknown, and the fear from pursuing your future self if you focus on today and tomorrow only. So a lot of times we stop ourselves from pursuing our future selves, and I went through this last year because of fear, and if we allow fear to take over, man, had I allowed fear to just take over. Why? Because my reference point was my past. I'm like, well, see, this girl couldn't show up like this. I don't know. Based on that information that I have back there, I don't think this thing is going to work. Oh, that's the wrong reference point. My reference point needs to be my future self. So I need to define my future self. And the more hyper-focused you are on what you're doing today for tomorrow, the less likely you're going to look in that rearview mirror. A lot of us talk about our past as if it's still here. We mention and protect it as if it is present tense. And if we make something present tense, then it is also future tense. So we've got to change the way that we talk about our current circumstances. And I'm going to give you a personal example. I know we're about 25 minutes into this, but this is an important topic. So would it be cool if I just took about 5-10 more minutes in the show to dive a little bit deeper? We had my daughter through IVF, and I've shared that story before, so I'm not going to go into a long, drawn-out story. I had her at the age of 37. I think it was like 33 or 34, 33 when we got married. And after a year of just nonchalantly trying, we didn't get pregnant. I was like, I don't know, maybe something's wrong. So I went to all the doctors. They ended up finding fibroids, one of them which was literally deformed the right side of my uterus. By then, I had already done a round of IVF, and it didn't take. It was a fresh transfer. And then I did another IVF round, and the fresh transfer didn't work. And the doctor was like, listen, you need to remove the fibroids. That's the only way you're going to get an implantation. And the miracle was that we had a frozen embryo that was genetically viable. And after I got the fibroids removed, we did a frozen embryo transfer, and that became our daughter. And so, when people ask me if I want another one, and I've identified this now, when people ask me if I want another one, I'm like, yes, I do. People who don't even know me. And what I end up doing is I repeat the past story. I repeat it almost because I want to be relatable. I don't know why I do it, but it's like I want to explain. Why do I got to explain it? But what happens when I share that past story every time somebody is asking me a simple question, for God's sake, they don't even know me. They didn't ask for my sob story. Think about that oh, okay. Is this your only one? Yeah. Do you want more? Yes, I want more. Oh, so the story behind that is like, homegirl did not ask me, but I am sharing anyway. And she's probably like, girl, I just asked you if you wanted to have another one. I did not ask you about your past, but you continue to bring your past into your present tense. So instead, I should be saying, yes, we'd love to have another one, and we plan to get pregnant this year. I don't need to define the how. I don't need the past to be my reference point about how I'm going to get pregnant this year, because my future self gets pregnant naturally at the age of 42. Because guess what? Sarah in the Bible was 90 years old when she got pregnant naturally. So that is my reference point now. How about that? Change your reference point. Your reference point is your future self, not your past. When we refer to our past, we can never change our future. And so, where did I go with that one? Yes. So one of the things that I've been actually practicing is writing how grateful I am to have the things I have today and tomorrow. A great preacher said today, and I'm very open about my faith. I am Christian. I believe in God. So Sunday service was today, and he said the most profound thing ever. He said, never ask your past for permission. Damn, that was good. Yeah, I'm a Christian who curses and says, damn. I don't know. Does it say anywhere in the Bible that you can't say bleep? Don't send me the scripture, okay? So, never ask your past for permission. How freaking profound is that? How many of us are actually asking our past selves for permission to have and go for the things that we want in the future? How many of us? Like 99.9% of us or more. Your past self will always tell you no. Your past self will always stop you. Your past self will sabotage you because she wants to keep you the same. She doesn't want to lose you, but you gotta let her go. You gotta let her go. And the way to do that is you gotta make decisions in your future self-image. What would the woman you want to be 5 years from now? No, let me rephrase that. Would the woman you want to be 5 years from now raid the pantry and continue to eat her emotions with cheddar cheese bunnies? No. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about myself. Emotional eater. So what do? You act in accordance when you go into that pantry and you see your kids' cheddar cheese bunnies and you start sabotaging yourself because you keep comparing yourself to your past self. You're like, would the chick that I want to be 5 years from now come into this pantry and start just stuffing her face with cheddar cheese bunnies because she's eating her damn emotions because she can't handle and face her emotions? No. We're done with that. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen every now and then, but little by little, you stop digging into that pantry for those cheddar cheese bunnies, which are filled with chemicals and I think trigger your brain to eat more and more. So, here's another question. Would the woman you want to be 5 years from now say no to speaking on stage because she's scared of what the audience will think? No. She would act in accordance by crafting her speech and start talking to a small crowd so that she can be prepared to speak on a bigger stage. Would the woman you want to be 5 years from now wait to write her book until she's ready? Would she wait to start her business? Would she put her body on the back burner? Would she continuously struggle with mom guilt? No, 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 and no. She would act in accordance to her future self. You've got to know what you want most, not what you want now. And the only way to know what you want most is to define it, is to write out your future self and be obedient to her. Yeah, the problem is most of you lack obedience, and that's such a bad word to use, especially with women in today's world. The woke woman, whatever we want to call those women. And I'm not here to be divisive. I'm just here to describe so you understand what persona I'm talking about. But the problem is most of you lack obedience. Today's woman's like, don't you dare tell me to be obedient. Don't you be using that word with me, obedient. Your lack of obedience is why you stay average. Truth bomb. A lot of people use the word discipline, by the way. No, you just lack obedience. You refuse to submit to what must be done. Submission. There's another naughty word to use with women. You need to get into submission. You need to submit and let go of control too, by the way. You refuse to abide by what is required for you to have that future self. If you cannot be obedient to your future self, if you cannot act in accordance, if you cannot submit and trust and have faith and act in accordance to your future self, then you will stay average and you will stay stuck and you will stay in neutral for the rest of your life. So today, I want you to declare, I'm doing a new thing. I'm doing a new me. I'm going to be a new me. I'm defining a new me. And I want you to walk faithfully with that version of yourself every single day forward. Thank you, by the way, for listening. I got real passionate on that one. I told you I ran in here on a Sunday. I'm like, I have to tell my ladies this. I have to tell my ladies this one line that was so profound to me. I've got to bring it to them, to the women and the men that are listening. I'm like, I don't think everybody has heard this, so I will share it. Stop asking your past for permission. Will you do that with me? Because I'm done asking my past self for permission. And I'm going for what my future self wants.